We are still at it. Let's clear 2020. We are talking about the insurance sector. As if just before we went on break, the conversation was, yes, if some insurance companies are struggling to meet the minimum capital requirements, then why not force them into mergers and acquisitions? Washington, do you share the same sentiment?
Yes, I do a lot.
Yes.
You see, right now, the other day we saw there was this out of a Jubilee General Insurance Department by Allianz.
Yes.
Allianz, big company, it's a global insurance company that's quite big in Germany, Europe, let me say.
Yes.
But let's see how as far as
still giving Washington that time to come back to that connection. All right, as we wait for him to get back to that connection, let's cross over to Adelaide. I don't know whether Adelaide, you can get me as well. Yes, not quite yet. So as we wait to really get back to them this morning, we're still looking at what the insurance sector has been in 2020. As we cross over to 2021, looking at the performance, the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic and pertinent issues that have made the sector be what it is in 2020. Good. We're looking into issues, regulation, penetration, which has been a bigger issue as well. And that's going to be the next issue that we're going to tackle here on a Business AM as we wait for that connection to be re-established this morning here on a Business AM. Killing 2020, waiting for 2021 to take shape. Yes, Washington, can you get me now?
Yeah, I can hear very well. I'm hearing you actually.
Thank you very much. So can we clear that sentiment then?
Yeah. Well, I was saying the mergers and acquisitions are very, very good for, especially for the insurance industry, because you see, it also reflects the strength.
Yes.
Industry. If you have international companies coming into insurance industry and they want to get into it, they want to get, for example, buy out a certain insurance companies department, like it happened the other day with Allianz and insurance general department getting the majority stake in it. That's a good thing. It shows that we could be doing the right thing. Of course, we're not 100%. We're not even 80%.
Yes.
But it's a good thing that companies are coming in to buy companies in Kenya. But the biggest problem we've been having is we've also seen companies coming in, they want to sector, what is, for example, a certain company, and then they pull. We saw it happen with Leapfrog, with a certain company. I'm not going to talk about right now.
Yes.
Leapfrog, not to get into that company's, not to get involved with the company. But it's also one of those companies actually that are really messing up in the insurance sector. They're not paying claims. They've stopped paying claims. We as insurance agents and brokers, when we go to them, they need to pay our commissions. It's still an issue. It's an issue of if you find an international company, if you find an international investor coming into this country and they want to get involved, they want to get into a certain insurance company, it shows there's something good the company is doing. But I can also tell you, there are very, very many companies that actually no one can be interested in. There are very, very many companies right now that are taking advantage of what you call a moratorium.
Yes.
Not to operate for the next 1 year. You've seen, for example, like Invesco, insurance company right now. Invesco should be shut down, should have been shut down like yesterday. But this company is still up and running and collecting premiums. That is wrong. In the moratorium, I think the company should be shut for 1 year, not collecting premiums, because you're still endangering people's lives. You're still playing around with people's lives, so to speak. I think, like we said, regulation should be for the benefit of the consumer. Let's not play around.
Pretty much. All right, now let's talk about the big elephant in the room. And Adelaide, I want you to be quick at this because there's been an ongoing issue. I mean, the only time we could be talking about a better penetration was in 2017. But even then, it was at just a minimal 3.4%. Guess what? 2020 has come to an end. We're still talking about a penetration level that is below 3%, the best we've ever touched in 2017. What has the COVID-19 pandemic done to that penetration? And what has it done to that penetration therefore in 2021?
So it's definitely a concern. What we're hearing is that it has dipped to a record low more than 15 years, actually. We're looking at something below 2.3% right now, which is really painful. It's a painful situation. I think with the industry requires a really deep overhaul and thought process. And the mechanisms that need to be put in place to strengthen consumer confidence in insurance needs to really be strengthened. I mean, education, awareness, to erode those trust issues that really are strangling this insurance space needs to be eroded. And I think that's where the regulator, the industry, everybody's energies have got to be put in. Because looking at us thinking, the pandemic notwithstanding, it was already a huge challenge even before. So people have even lost income. People have lost access to revenues to be able to even start thinking about life insurance policies, healthcare, etc. So I think it's really time for a serious shift in a mind change, for people to be able to come in and really rethink what is, and really overhaul really mindsets, and ensure that this issue is addressed. And technology has got to be embraced without fear. And people have got to ensure that even regulations in place that actually ensure that people are up to speed with the regulations that with the technology infrastructure to enhance this. We cannot be dealing with very old school technology platforms that are not serving the people. So there's a need for a strong outcry and an overhaul to be able to see that this industry and sector is revived.
Pretty much, you mentioned something that we're going to come back to, digitization. Fine, I'm going to come back to that. Let's bring in Anthony at this time. Anthony, just when are we going to talk about a double-digit penetration of the insurance sector in the economy?
Yes, I think let me first of all say a few factors that, in my view, perhaps that also affect penetration. One, at times you'll actually see even a marginal increase in the numbers of people that have insured. We have this cancer in our industry called undercutting. This is where basically you, instead of going by the figures that Dryden and his team and her team basically gives us from Acturio, we undercut each other. I mean, just the other day I was participating in a tender, and there were a bit of about 1.85% of a motor policy. I mean, you cannot, and scope of coverage, covering terrorism and all manner of other things that you're putting in that motor policy. But because I think silo mentality, we're only looking at businesses that can come from government. And so we have failed to go out there and develop other markets. So that one, undercutting. The other one is lack of innovation in our market. And that's what is now leading to an undercutting issue. Because what happens is that we're only looking at the baked cake. We're not even thinking of baking. But the question is, why should I go out there and bake and I just find people who are going to just pick up my, there is no incentives for innovations. For instance, for people like brokers or agents who deal with the customers on the ground, when they come up with products, those products become the product of the insurance companies. And the next time you see again has been changed to something different, you get almost no reward for your effort. So I think that undercutting, lack of innovation. The other one that I think is a factor that is affecting penetration and the whole issue of double digit, that's why it not come very fast, is I think we are also now destroying the channels of distribution. I am one of those people who think that competition, seeing
yes, unfortunately, yes, again, as we have through the entire of 2020, and that has been a lesson, is that yes, we have to wait for Anthony to come back so that we take that point again, because that's exactly what it means doing interviews online. One of the biggest lessons that we've learned this year. Anthony, you are moving on to your last point, if you can get me now.
Yeah, I can.
Yes.
I was also saying about distribution channels. I think they are being not in a positive manner, because you have seen a lot of businesses that actually now are going directly to insurance companies. Nothing wrong with that if that is natural progression. But there is also a lot of other issues that are going there. So I think that we are affecting the way we are distributing our businesses. And lastly, there is almost lack of education and training, as it were. When I joined this industry, especially people like agents and brokers and all that, they were well trained by the insurance companies.
Yes.
But there was disruption when now, as an agent, you can be an agent of 10 companies and everything. So who takes the bill for training? Because I can't train for my competitors. So then now the people who are out there are being, so I'm not necessarily advocating that we go back to one agent to one underwriter, but I think then a discussion needs to be had that where either there is some money put aside by all the players in the industry that are used to train for the distribution. Otherwise, nobody is training nobody. Even if you're training, you're only training for your products, but not for the industry. And I think that is a serious issue. So I think the issue of double digit will take a bit of time before we see it because of some of those factors and many others that we're talking about. The regulations also need to be a little bit careful so that we don't over-regulate and kill the spirit in the industry.
Would you say, Anthony, that it's over-regulated, your environment, especially in 2020?
I see.
Yes, again, now we have to take that again. Now, which pretty much also takes us to the next question this morning. And I want to put that question to Washington because Washington, you and I spoke when some of your insurers, actually not some, they took you to court. When it comes to handling of the premiums, that was a big factor, has been a big factor again in 2020. But guess what? It hasn't been solved. We're getting into 2021. Talk to me about that. Where do you stand again as we get into 2021? And how was that a factor in the way that the sector shaped up in 2020?
Yeah, well, you're very, very right. You see, like my colleagues are saying, especially this last point that Anthony is putting across.
Yes.
There seems to be like a fight between the traditional insurance distributors, the insurance agents and the brokers, and the new guys that are coming, the new kids on the block.
Yes.
These guys, the banks have invaded the insurance sector. Yet we saw this week, Safaricom also wants to come in. Also come into the insurance sector, and it is looking for a license to be able to sell insurance directly to the public. They're talking about tapping into the millennials, so to speak.
Yes.
But the point is this: you're introducing new channels of distribution, but you haven't taken care of the old ones. We're talking about, for example, the regulation is not okay. Well, I mean, when you talk about the premiums, making laws, for example, not handling premiums, under the pretext of misappropriation by the intermediary, that is basically that, a pretext. And the pretext, and what they're bringing in that is because they want these new boys who are coming in to clients, for example, go to the banks and bypass us. But the point is this: before we even get to that, do people really know what they're getting into? If you go to a bank, insurance is not just buy automatically. It's not just about buying. It's not a shoe.
Yes.
You just buy and walk away with it. You know, it's when you buy and you need to have and you have a claim and discover how to got yourself into. That's when you go back to a traditional broker or agent to solve your issues. Because at the end of the day, the issue of premiums as had been advocated by the government, has been advocated as a new law, not to handle premiums. It was poorly thought out. The courts agreed with us. The courts agreed with us that actually this thing it's not a law that should be regulated unless if you want to kill the insurance agents and brokers. If you want to do that, fine, let it go ahead. Because I mean, how it's like it's selling a shop and you've closed the door. How do you do that? You know? We need, well, let me say, we need to be very, very careful at Simba.
Yes.
How the regulation is done in this country, because there's actually no consultation. You remember, or even if you see when you talk about even public consultation, it is more like it's there on paper. It's there to appease people. Whatever views you put across, they're not considered by anyone. But thank God the courts are actually seeing the bigger picture.
Yes. All right, Anthony, I'm going to come back to you just after I get back to Adelaide on that as well. I mean, Adelaide, would you say that, well, the regulation environment in 2020 was a bit harsh as we get into 2021?
So I think you really have to see who is wearing which shoe,
yes.
Where the harsh is most. For us, we're an insurtech, we're a startup, and we're falling on the shadow of a regulator who is trying to really raise us up so that we can ensure that we can be in the visibility of serving the policyholders better using technology. So I'm in a space where I feel the regulator does require a little bit of strictness, especially on rogue insurers who are not really meeting.
Again, we lost Adelaide. Yes, we can get you now, Adelaide. Continue.
Yeah, we're also looking at a regulator who is salvage an industry that has been affected by a pandemic and have to put in measures in place to ensure that the policyholders are also protected. Yes. So it really matters on which side of the fence you're sitting on when it comes to
Pretty much. All right, let's cross over to Anthony as well. Anthony, I want to get your last sentiment on this discussion this morning. I mean, the other sectors, the other industries have been shaped and reshaped by the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. And the biggest move we've seen from the different sectors of the economy and industries is digitization. Have we learned that as the insurance sector in the country? Have we, Anthony?
I would say we are not yet there yet. Yes. There is an attempt. There are attempts, but I think we are not yet there yet. There is so much that still can be done in the digital world, but yes. I think the human face that is in Kenyans, obviously, I would expect to see that happening pretty fast.
Yes.
I mean, the Reddit, the nails, you can see what they already doing. There are a lot of insurtechs that are coming in. That is a good thing, but I think of embracing technology. If you look at most of even the roles, for instance, in some companies, you still have to deliver the original police abstract, you must take let's say give on.
Yes, we're still hanging on so that we get that last sentiment from Anthony, and I don't know whether I'm gonna have to retake that again with them. Anthony, can you confirm that you can hear me? Because we've been getting 3/4 of the information this morning. We want to get it fully as we come clear to in this discussion. Can you get me now? Not yet. And that has been exactly what 2020 has been for us, is that we have to hold on and wait for them to come back alive so we can see whether we can actually even get to say the last sentiment on this discussion. Remember, we're still talking about what has been the insurance sector in Kenya in 2020, talking about the regulation environment, talking about what has been the performance of the insurance companies in the country, and what 2021 shapes or is promising to shape like as we also get ready to welcome it. And it looks unfortunate that I actually cannot get through to them, and I don't know whether this is going to be the last thing that we're going to say in this conversation. It will be quite unfortunate. I'm still hanging on to get the last 5 minutes of this conversation, and I don't think that we're actually going to break through to them this morning. Well, that marks the end of our conversation this morning, and I don't know whether that's too soon. I think not. Well, my name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiaga. Thank you very much for being part and parcel of this conversation.